temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, that paragon of nihilism, the king of stinging rebukes, Robert, everyone loves a bad guy, Winfrey.
Yay, me. All right. With my enthusiasm out of the way, hi, everyone. And welcome to, as Mark mentioned, Damn You Hollywood. Brief note, I can actually hear that song playing. I don't know why that is, but I can kind of hear it.
Do you want me to tell you why?
Yeah, why?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Rattledge, your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified. The reason why you can kind of hear that is what you're getting is this. These are not. This is a gaming headset that I'm wearing. So the sound leaks from my ears, from the part that's covering my ears, the cans, if you will, and it's leaking into my microphone.
Huh.
That's why you're getting that.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's not Spreaker.
I knew it wasn't Spreaker. I was just wondering why I could hear it, because I, again, kind of could, so.
Does that mean
All
you
right,
don't want me to do that intro anymore? You don't want me to Flavor Flav you up? I wanna Flavor Flav you up.
I mean, look, it's a two-man show. We don't need a fluffer.
But I don't mind fluffing you, Robert Winfrey.
You really would. That would not be a pleasant experience.
All right, get on with this nonsense.
All right. More nonsense on that note. All right. Again, this is Damn You Hollywood, everyone. This is the first Damn You Hollywood on Spreaker, as our last edition was the... I would love to say it was the straw that broke the camel's back, but let's face it was a brick. This was the anvil that Wile E. Coyote dropped from a helicopter that it missed the Roadrunner and it hit our poor metaphorical camel. And we threw up our hands, we said, that's it, we've had it. It's all we can stand, we can't stand no more. So that's kind of the impetus for the minor bit of shop talk in the beginning there. Tonight we will be reviewing Death Wish. Mark, why? Just why?
What do you mean, why?
Why did you do this?
Are you new? I'm sorry. Have you not done this podcast before?
No. I'm asking why this specifically. Because this doesn't...
Okay, let's stop for a second.
In only the loosest of terms
questions.
does this meet the criteria.
Well, no, wait a minute. Are you asking me why did I choose to review this? Or are you asking me why did they choose to remake this?
Yes.
All right. I haven't the faintest idea what possessed the studio other than sort of a stock, everything that is old is new and there's no new ideas left in Hollywood. I mean, that's the kind of thing you throw out there when you really don't have any answers. And frankly, I don't have any answers. I have no earthly clue what possessed the studio. What studio was this? What possessed the studio to think this was a good idea? But that being said, why did I pick it? Because...
this was Scott Free and MGM.
Okay, well, it's not like they've had a decent hit on their hands lately.
Still don't, actually.
Yeah, this is not doing well. I'll be curious to see if it actually makes its budget back. But that being said, I chose it because the stock and trade of this show is first blockbusters, then
This is not.
Then remakes, reboots of things that are paragons of the culture.
That's its own criteria. When did we add that? I was not privy to that being added to the list of criteria.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? I don't understand.
It feels like every other reboot or remake that we've had to review fell into the larger criteria of either major blockbusters or entries into a franchise, things of that nature. This is the first time that the only justification for it being on this show is, well, it's a remake of something that people love.
Right. It also gave me the opportunity to book a on trial about the original, which I like to do. I like to, when these remakes come out.
Go ahead and say synergy. Just say it. We know you want. Just say synergy.
Synergy, Robert Winfrey.
I hate you so much.
Why Death Wish? Because synergy. These opportunities allow me and those who podcast with me to compare the new to the original, the new to the old. By the way, Scarface apparently fell off the calendar, so you dodged a bullet there.
I'm not sure I did. I was kind of looking forward to that. Only because the Coen brothers were the ones doing it.
Oh, okay.
And plus the fundamentals of the Scarface story. I mean, the Al Pacino version.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who directed it. Brian somebody, I want to say. De Palma?
Maybe.
I think it was De Palma.
I'd have to look it up.
I'm going with De Palma until corrected. But that was a remake of a 1937 black and white mob era film. This is the type of story that can be updated every 20 years or so. And since the most recent one came out mid-'80s, so 20, 30 years, a reintroduction, a remake of that with the under the guise of contemporary sensibilities is not necessarily uncalled for or unwarranted. And let's be fair, it's not like either previous version of Scarface is cinematic perfection.
Well,
they're both good.
Let me ask you this. Considering what we're talking about tonight, we're talking about Death Wish. And Death Wish at its core is the fantasy that an aggrieved person can take the law into their own hands by virtue of getting a gun and shooting it at who they perceive to be their enemy. Don't you think that Death Wish is a modern-day parable, especially with what's going on in the news lately? Don't you I don't know if this was the intention or not. I don't know if anyone at MGM really sat around going...
It's Eli Roth. Intention is not part of what he does.
Okay. Again, but Eli Roth did not finance this film by himself. People had to agree on this. This had to be produced by someone. People had to invest in it. But
Eli Roth's production company, I seem to recall.
I can imagine there being at least some degree of a conversation of, with all the talk of shootings in the news and whatnot, and, an entire election revolving around the perception that a particular part of the population was aggrieved and put upon and felt powerless, and so they elected who they elected because they felt like that person would empower them. Don't you think Death Wish comes along at a time where it sort of it meets that part of the culture? Because I did. I thought Death Wish, whether they meant to or not, was very reflective of the national conversation about guns, about an aggrieved part of the population, about powerlessness, all of that. Now, whether or not they did a great job of it, that's what we'll debate later on in the show. But I thought the intention, was there. Or am I ascribing a lot to this movie that nobody intended?
Mostly the latter. Which is fine. For the last 15 or 20 years of criticism and intellectual debate surrounding fictional material has essentially done a good job of either completely throwing out or at least severely diminishing authorial intent. So we can ascribe things to this film that no one attached to it did, and that's perfectly acceptable.
So, why Death Wish? Because I believe that its themes are part of the national conversation that's happening right now, and that nothing is more modern, nothing is more current than Death Wish. And I think our conversation tonight, it contributes to the national conversation. How do you like that? We're doing a service.
Dude, look, I'm nihilistic and you're narcissistic. We need to come up with a better nickname for this, apparently. More importantly, you and I have, like, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to piss off a significant portion of our listener base probably by doing this. For those of you that don't know,
we're both white.
Mark and I both, not only are we white, I mean, you're Jewish, I seem to recall.
In some form or fashion, sure.
I mean, the last name doesn't,
Mom's Jewish, Dad's Catholic. Move it on.
Yeah. I'm LDS, but we're both conservative, generally speaking. And consequently, like, if you listen to the majority of leftist politics and policies, our perspectives don't matter because we are not the aggrieved parties in society. But anyway, you're not here to listen to us talk politics. Mark used to have a podcast that was politics. This isn't it.
And I don't ever want to do that again.
Come on, you had fun.
Look, I had fun when I was making chicken noises, but I talk enough. I can talk politics in a comic book show. I can talk politics in a movie review. I don't need an entire show dedicated to it.
Anyway, we all know you also didn't answer the real reason about why you chose this movie.
What's the real reason, Robert Winfrey?
You hate me. It's because you hate me.
If you think this schedule's bad, wait till you see next year.
Look, go ahead and plan out next year's right now, and then I want you to send me a dime each time you have to change it.
Okay, you got. Well, that seems a little rich for my blood. Will you take a penny? Will you take a penny?
I'd take a nickel.
Okay, maybe I can do a nickel. I will go ahead and set the movie schedule for 2019, and every time I have to move something, send you a nickel, and you will die a rich man.
At the close of 2019,
mm-hmm.
I want a tally to be read on air, and then I want to check.
Okay. So you want to tell people what Death Wish is about?
It's not about anything. It just kind of exists.
Oh, it's about something. Can I give away something right now, real quick? And I don't want to go off too much on a tangent here. By the way, my father listened to one of our reviews, and he was like, after 20 minutes of you not reviewing anything and doing whatever opening shtick that was, I gave up and turned it off. Apparently, me and you are a little long in the tooth in our opening shtick.
Yeah, a little. We do need to hem that in.
We are dangerously close to Jim Cornette and Brian Last levels of putting off getting to. Have you? Yeah, half the drive-through now is their opening bit, and the show's only an hour long. And
all right,
yeah, this is why you and I go 3 hours usually. Because the first hour is
all right. So moving on, you wanted to give something away.
I actually like this a lot better than I like the original. And
you are a terrible human being.
Well, you go ahead and give the plot summary, and then when we can come back to me, I will explain why I actually think this remake of the novel is the superior version of that piece of source material. How do you like that?
I can actually guess at why you think this is better.
Well, it's not black folks, I can tell you that much.
You're married to conventional narrative structure, and this follows a conventional narratively structured plot. The original Charles Bronson movie does not.
That's very true. I don't know if married to it. Married makes it seem like
Dude, you hate Caddyshack because it doesn't follow conventional narrative
I've
structure.
never seen Caddyshack. That's a bad example.
You would hate Caddyshack because it does not follow conventional narrative structure.
Okay.
You would laugh at Bill Murray.
Why don't you?
Bill Murray's hilarious.
Why don't you make me watch Caddyshack in one of the in one of the days that we don't have open, and then we can settle this once and for all. In the meantime, tell these fucking people what this movie's about.
You mean one day in 2024?
Here's your nickel.
Yeah. All right. As for the movie, this is, again, a remake of the 1974 film, I believe, starring Charles Bronson, which is a cult classic, which is itself based on a novel by Brian Garfield. I should know that guy's name, but for some reason, I actually think this is the worst essential adaptation of this source material, but I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, this story is very obviously set in the city of Chicago, because every 10 minutes it tells you we're in Chicago. It just does. Lest you think we are in New York or Los Angeles or some other major metropolitan area with sky-high instances of gun crime. Gun crime, not gun violence. Mind you, gun violence is 60% suicide and suicide attempts.
Baltimore.
Whatever. Jacksonville. Atlanta.
Hotlanta. Woohoo! Miami.
Again, there's a lot of places that you could theoretically set this movie, and because they don't go out of their way to show you anything culturally significant about the city, they just have to tell you, hey, Chicago, via morning radio talk show hosts. Anyway, we follow Bruce Willis. It's Bruce Willis. Playing Dr. Paul Kersey. He's just living the good life. That's all he is. That's all he's doing. He's a trauma surgeon. He's got a daughter who just got accepted to NYU. He's got an attractive wife. He's got kind of a deadbeat but good-meaning brother in the form of Vincent D'Onofrio, who is utterly wasted in this movie. And I don't mean that he's drunk. Although I can't say one way or the other about that. Someone who shot the movie would have to tell me that, but I'll get to that in a second. His life is completely, essentially destroyed when his house is broken into when his wife and daughter are home. They were not supposed to be home, but because he works in a hospital, schedules got shifted. He wound up at the hospital working, and they wound up at home making a birthday cake for him because let's just try to concoct the saddest possible confluence of events and then ignore them later on. The burglars break in. There's 3 of them. They're surprised because there weren't supposed to be people home, but hey, we're already here, and we already have our nifty masks on. Let's just go through with this. As they rob the place, one of them tries to get a little frisky with the daughter. This ends badly. She cuts him in the face. He takes his mask off, and now they've seen us, so the other guy, in an issue of, well, they've seen our faces, simply shoots both of them. They're taken to the ER where Dr. Kersey is working. The wife dies. The daughter winds up in a coma. The doctor winds up talking with Dean Norris, which is not the worst way to spend a few hours, but talks with the police, gives them all the information that he has, and proceeds to kind of trust the system to sort itself out. Time passes, and it doesn't, and it doesn't, and he becomes slightly more unstable, trying to get through the grieving process. He becomes erratic. He tries to stop some crime. He gets his ass kicked because he doesn't know how to fight. It's a lifelong acquired skill. And like most people who don't have the physical tools, decides, firearms are a good thing. And they are. I am very pro-gun. But the gun laws in the city of Chicago are the strictest in the entire country. And he kind of gets second thoughts about actually buying one, so he goes back at work. He gets one from a patient. It falls out of his pant leg, and rather than turn it into the authorities and do his duty as a physician, he keeps it. He spends a lot of time practicing with it, which I appreciated them showing. He gets better at handling, at firing, the whole 9 yards. Then is out walking around looking for an excuse to shoot someone, essentially. He stops a carjacking. That's what he's doing. He is literally out looking for an excuse to shoot someone. Let's not mince words about that. He stops a carjacking. He He shoots and kills the two carjackers. He becomes a viral internet sensation because apparently that's what you do. I mean, in an effort to try and make this about something and show some of the cultural significance of this film, we have to then, in the actual film, make it a viral thing. And he feels slightly better about himself. He can sleep at night. I mean, he watches people die all the time in the ER. You'd think that would serve the same purpose, but... Anyway. Again, he feels a little bit better. He has somewhat rediscovered his purpose. He kills a local drug dealer who shot a kid in the leg. His myth and legend grows. He runs across someone who he recognizes as being associated with his family's... and with the death of his wife and his family's assault. And begins doing some amateur investigation into it, which is somehow infinitely more effective than what the police have done or are capable of.
Well, in his defense, the police didn't use torture.
Or, have access to technology or willing witnesses or, I mean... Yeah.
Oh, hang on. You're missing a key plot detail here. The guy that tipped off the robbers, he gets shot, and his phone falls out of his pocket. Bruce Willis picks it up, and unbeknownst to everybody else in the operating room, takes the phone, starts to go through it, and realizes, hey, wait a minute, this guy is the one that tipped him off to my family. He was the valet at the restaurant that we were at, and there's a contact in here, and thus begins his investigation.
And my point there is, had he just, he could have easily... never mind, I'll get to that later. We don't want to derail this before I actually get to the plot. Some mediocre scenes of torture and violence follow as he kills two of the three people who attacked his family. The third one is actually...
Because it's an Eli Roth film.
Ugh. We'll get to that. Believe me, I have things to say about that. The third guy is the one who's actually apparently the sociopath. There's a gunfight at a nightclub, very brief gunfight. They both get wounded. The gunman then fingers, Dr. Kersey as the Grim Reaper, as his persona has become known. But there's not a lot of evidence besides the word of a convicted scumbag. So the cops are somewhat reticent to go through a full-on, prosecution of this guy when they have, again, no corroborating evidence. But his daughter wakes up around then, and he decides he wants to try and move on from vigilante justice. But the last guy is still alive, and he now wants revenge for, being shot, and he's worried about the daughter being able to identify him. So in our final shootout, he and a couple of compatriots assault the house again. Bruce Willis is ready. He kills all three of them. The police show up, but he has a plausible... I mean, to be fair, at this point they invaded his home with automatic weapons. So yeah, he's well within his right to, defend himself with deadly force. He expresses his belief that he has moved beyond the need to run around the streets of Chicago at night, or during the day in some cases, and randomly murdering people for breaking the law. His daughter goes out to college, and he presumably will find love in the sequel. I don't know. I mean... you feel I gave anything short shrift there? Anything that you want to...
No, I mean, the stuff with Vincent D'Onofrio...
could have been removed?
Yeah, it could have easily been removed, and it's not really worth talking about. Okay. So, I know you're dying to ask me, why did I like this movie? Why did I feel like this is superior to the original?
Sure. Why do you... again, I'm 90% sure I know, but why do you feel this was better than the original?
Well, as you said, we're talking about conventional narrative structure. If the idea that this is about something, there is a mystery that is that is put upon our hero that he goes about solving. If the movie is about revenge and he enacts his revenge on the people that hurt him and his family, as opposed to the original, which is, his family was attacked, but then he killed a bunch of random muggers, none of which connected to the original attack. And so the movie could have been 5 hours long, and the same thing would have happened. It was a matter of, how long does this need to go before we get to the point where the cop says, listen, get out of the city, and I'll throw your gun in the river. Well, we don't want to cause a widespread panic here, and we don't want to make ourselves look like asses, and we don't want to make you a folk hero. So we're going to forgive you for murdering a bunch of random muggers, which I thought was really weak, as opposed to Bruce Willis went on a vengeance run that ended with the last man who hurt his family. Now, if that's I'm married to conventional narrative structure, fine, guilty as charged. But to me, that's a stronger tale than the original. Now, this isn't on trial, and I'll go ahead and make further arguments this Thursday, which you'll be able to then download on Friday on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network on Spreaker. But to round this back to our topic at hand, with the remake of Death Wish 2018, I mean, here's what I don't understand about you and a lot of people who may not have liked this film, but are fans of Punisher comics. Because for the longest time, I wasn't a fan of Punisher comics, because when I read comics, I like, Green Lantern. Here's a guy with a magic ring who can do fun stuff, and I like the color green. Let's talk about Thor. Thor is a god. He's super strong. He has a magic hammer. He can shoot lightning bolts. The Hulk. He's the big giant green monster. These are fantastic and wonderful creatures of myth and mythology. I know myth is short for mythology, but go with me here. Punisher was a guy with a gun who shot his way through New York. As much as I loved Welcome Back Frank, or Welcome Home Frank, whatever it was called, I said on source material at the time, other than Ma Nucci is a celestial being, and I still believe that, Ma Nucci got that ill communication, all that comic is the Punisher gunning his way through through the Nucci family. For me to really get behind a story where, this is why I don't watch films like the John Wick movies and a lot of these where it's just a guy with a gun who appears to who is supposed to be an ordinary human being, or the Bourne movies. That's another good example. I hate a lot of these movies. It's these people who don't have any actual superpowers but are made to be superhuman, and they just gun their way through everything or ninja fight their way through everything. And some of these have better narratives than others, but I think that this movie worked on a couple of different levels. They were simple levels, but they still worked. And before I go too far into that, I want to round this back to the initial issue I had with you and others, which is, how do you? And I want to come back to elements of the film very quickly, so we're going to just bat this around right quick. But how do you laud the Punisher series but think this is dumb as shit? It's a guy gunning people down, and at least this one had, this story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Vengeance is had. The good guy wins. The bad guys are punished. It comes full circle. Why is that so much worse than, like I said, the Punisher, who it's just an endless slaughter?
If I really have to explain why I feel the Netflix Punisher series is superior to this in every single way, you really don't know.
Whoa. I'm not comparing it to the Netflix Punisher. I'm comparing it to the Punisher comic book character.
I don't read comics.
Okay. Well,
I'm the wrong guy to have that discussion with.
All right, Jesse Starcher, if you're out there, this is a recording. You can't be out there. No one's hearing this right now. But they will when it's uploaded to the Rattlevision Broadcasting Network on Spreaker. But I mean, okay, so you're not the best person to ask, but I feel like I feel like that's a valid question to ask people. And okay, so take the Punisher out of there, but any one of these figures in media who, you know, the big attraction to them is watching them mow down people with a gun. Why does this one fail and those succeed?
All right, let's take John Wick as an issue of specificity. I'm not the biggest fan of the first John Wick, and I haven't seen the second. There's a couple of reasons that John Wick works more than this. One is world immersion. John Wick goes out of its way to establish rules for the world that it operates in.
I'm missing something here. You're going to have to give me 50 words or less on what you're talking about.
How do I explain it better than that?
No, I mean, I would assume John Wick is a guy with a gun mowing down people in the mob.
John Wick was... Oh, you haven't seen the movie?
No.
Oh, God. Okay. Quick plot synopsis of John Wick. John Wick is a retired hitman who worked almost exclusively for the Russian mafia. They referred to him as the boogeyman. He was able to extricate himself from the mob when he got married by performing what they referred to as an impossible task. The godfather of the Russian mafia gave him something that he thought, you're going to die doing this. And he did it. He is very clearly established as having violent capabilities. His wife dies of cancer. He's depressed. She sent him sent him a puppy to try and, get his heart going again. You need something to love, and the loves you, and you need to connect to the world again because you're fundamentally a good person, but you spend a lot of time in violence. And now that I'm gone, you still need something good in your life. Snotty son of the Russian godfather does not know who John Wick is and is annoyed at being insulted by him and during a random encounter at a gas station. Breaks into his house, breaks his arm, kills his dog, steals his car, and drives off. Cue murderous rampage from John Wick.
I'm failing to see in large part the difference. And in small part, yes, there are obviously details that are different. But again, man with gun, mow people down.
Well, there's a couple of things that are... One, John Wick does actually have a beginning, middle, and end. It is very clearly it is structured in that same way.
Mm-hmm.
Two, there are... You have to see... I don't want to go off on a tangent like trying to explain the world of John Wick, but...
So just explain why John Wick works and why Death Wish doesn't.
Okay, one is world immersion. John Wick does set up a subset of rules by which the criminal underworld operates that allows you to feel like you're part of that world, whereas this is generic and bland.
Okay.
Two is the action sequences. This is the primary defining feature. John Wick is extraordinarily well choreographed and well shot.
Okay.
It has some brilliantly shot and edited scenes of gunplay. It has some really good fight sequences.
So let me jump in here. Your issue is less with the motif and more with the style.
It's in the execution.
Okay.
Again, the motif is the motif. Some people are going to be attracted to it. Some people are not. The same is true of. Again, it's a revenge movie. Some people like revenge movies. Some people don't. Fair.
Okay, but that's where I'm drawing an issue, because I totally understand some are done stylistically better than others, some are executed better than others, and fine. Death Wish has its problems in execution and style. I'll grant you that, but
a lot of them.
But my frustration, I think, is that people are having an issue with the motif in and of itself, and let's just pull out the ones that are tripping over themselves, and we'll get to this when we get to the Rotten Tomato reviews, but let's just remove that entire section of the review community that hates it because and is tripping over themselves to get to a microphone to yell how much they hate this movie because white people and guns. Okay, they don't count. They're terrible. But there are people who are having an issue with the motif of generally just the concept of a person with a gun mowing down faceless bad guys. To which, again, I say, but we've loved it for so long. Why all of a sudden are we looking like we love The Punisher, we love John Wick, we love Jason Bourne, we love this, we love that. We get to Death Wish and we go, wait, fuck this movie. Which I don't understand.
I imagine a lot of people aren't properly articulating their issues. Again, look, again, for me, it's not about the motif, it's about the execution.
Okay.
I have serious issues with this movie, not because I hate revenge movies. I like revenge movies. They are deeply cathartic.
Okay.
As a man with an appetite for violence, I can appreciate the majority of them on that level. But they must be executed but they have to be executed properly. I don't believe this one was, and that's my biggest gripe with it.
Okay, and that's fair. Here's what and again, the last point of comparison, and then I'm just going to stick with focusing on the film itself. But that's kind of what I hated about Bronson's Death Wish, which was that just seemed to be a celebration of violence for violence sake. You can call him going from a liberal tree hugger to a conservative gun nut as a kind of an arc, but ultimately, I just felt like I was watching. I felt like I was just watching, murder porn, and I don't think it said anything about the culture at large. I understand people look back on it with, not novelty, but
rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, there was another phrase I wanted to use, but yeah, rose-colored nostalgia glasses. That's the one. People look back on it with nostalgia glasses for what it was at the time, and for what it's meant to people over the years, and what it is in the cultural lexicon. But as somebody who had never seen it before and is watching it in 2018, the movie sucks. It's fucking terrible. This one at least has a point. It's a simple point, and we can talk about the style and execution as being problematic, but essentially, you have a man who is trying to, lead the good life in 2018, take care of his family, obey the laws, and stop me if you've heard this one before, but suddenly the rug gets taken out from under him. Everything he knows and loves is shattered, and he's asking himself, what did I do to deserve this? Bruce Willis, you can argue that his performance and his portrayal of a character who feels aggrieved and wronged is
bad.
I was going to go with poor. But it's still there. He's still attempting to emote these things. And in some cases, he outright says them. And that
because he is not allowed to emote because of the terrible screenwriting.
But that was highly identifiable. And I thought highly thematic in 2018. That was, for me, the draw. So
there's a significantly better version of this that came out 4 or 5 years ago starring Kevin Bacon called Death Sentence.
Okay. But that's not the movie we're reviewing. We're here to review Death Wish. And I'm okay with you bringing that up. But the movie that I didn't go to see 5 movies about revenge, and to rank them. I went in to see Death Wish, and I came out of it going, well, I've seen better, but I've seen worse, and here's what I like about it. Yes, I've seen worse. And here's what I like about it. I like the themes of the movie. I like what the movie was trying to say. I actually liked the fact that there's a vocalized debate over vigilantism and gun violence in the movie. And before anyone says...
There isn't a vocalized debate.
There is. You have
No. There are... We needed to draw out the length of this movie, so interspersed into screen cuts, we have segments where talk show hosts spout 20 seconds of dialogue. That is not at all the same as actually representing a debate.
I don't know. I think you're overly criticizing those radio scenes. Because I was listening intently during those cut scenes of Sway and whoever else is on that show, having a debate amongst themselves. So people are criticizing that, by the way. There's a criticism of how this is done, where you have white man cow, pro-gun argument. You have black Sway, anti-gun, anti-vigilante argument. Except that Shue had somebody on the panel who was a black woman who was pro-vigilante. So, whatever.
This is another instance of people just wanting to say what they want to say because they are failed political bloggers, not actual film critics.
Yeah. Well, some of them are actual film critics, and it makes them even worse. But I needed to point that out for people who were like, "Oh, of course, Man Cows, is aggrieved pro-white guy, and Sway is, anti-white, pro-black, and an anti-gun and all that." I'm like, nope. There was somebody on his panel who was black too, who was like, who saw maybe the necessity or the good in what Bruce Willis's character is doing. Elisabeth Shue is terrible. By the way, I don't know.
I would disagree with that.
I don't know what happened to Elisabeth Shue, but she's not good in this. The daughter's okay. I thought the villains, the thugs were
the MacGuffins,
the right temperature of awful.
They're not anything.
The object was to get the audience to want to see cars get dropped on them and get shot and all of that, and they were the right kind of they were the right temperature of gross, where I wasn't, I wasn't at any time thinking, oh, they didn't deserve that. That's a little too much. No, I was okay with dropping a car on the one guy's head.
To be fair, he deserved more. But for some reason, Eli Roth decided that on a major release, we're going to dial back the.
Well, this
violence.
Isn't a Saw movie. It's Death Wish.
No. This is the guy who literally brought about the Hostel franchise. Don't bring Saw into this.
Okay, I should have said this isn't Hostel. But I haven't seen Hostel. I've seen Saw. But anyway, I
haven't seen Hostel either. I don't need to.
Yeah, let's never review a Hostel movie. Anyway,
no. It's going on my list now of
fuck
things
you.
to make you watch. Dude, you made me watch this. All right, there's so many things that you have made me watch.
Okay. Speaking of aggrieved white people, now let's see, what else did I like about this movie? So I enjoyed the interspersing radio debate. I thought for a major release that's trying to avoid being way too preachy, I thought it hit the right notes in terms of. There's an actual topic being talked about, and because this is 2018 and we're not really an audience that does well with nuance by and large, I thought it was fine for this kind of a movie. Nice and obvious.
That's fair. There are people who didn't pick up on the subtleties, and there's heavy air quotes there, around a few Michael Bay films. Like. There's a bunch of morons out there that need things spelled out in bright, flashing neon letters.
I thought Vincent D'Onofrio's character, for what it was fine. I like the turn on
useless.
I like the turning on the head of him being sort of the useless guy at the beginning, and at the end he's sort of like the moral center of the movie. Let's see. I like the fact that it does culminate in the main lead robber getting his comeuppance with something that was set up earlier in the movie, the rifle and the machine gun underneath the table. I thought that was fun. And I thought he was sufficiently creepy. I thought there was a nice level of tension and creepiness in the elevator scene with him and Bruce Willis and the daughter. So overall, this was a brisk movie that was contemporary in topic and motif, that was just flat. That's the major problem with it, in my opinion, is not all this other stuff that people talk about, but Quentin Tarantino is a lot of style. He does a lot of violence too, but he does it in a stylistic way that really makes the film sing. This is kind of the opposite of a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's like, here, we're going to do a revenge flick. A guy's going to shoot his way through a mob. And that's kind of all this is a guy shooting his way through a mob, with no style, no sense of uniqueness. It's just there. That's my biggest criticism of Death Wish.
I have so many things that I don't care for about this movie.
I hadn't picked that up. Speaking of subtlety.
Part of it, you just hit that this is flat. It's not just flat in terms of dialogue and in terms of Bruce Willis's performance. It's flat in the action. Like, there's nothing that grabs you and is interesting. I mean, even the torture scene is not. It doesn't actually get at your affect you viscerally the way those are supposed to. It's just kind of there.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. It was an odd choice because here's the thing: an angry father seeking revenge for his dead wife and abused daughter is a hero some of us can get behind. When he's torturing people, however, even if he's torturing them for information, it's kind of hard to continue to cheer him on.
No. I'm all for that. Again,
okay.
But
you're a fucking weirdo. Most of us would have some difficulty with that, and that's why I thought it was an odd choice to even put that scene in the movie. Again, I don't want to hurt you, but if you don't talk to me and tell me what I want to know, you're going to get hurt, would be one thing. He almost seemed to be reveling in that. And it's like, now you're crossing. And then again, if you're going to have a scene where he crosses the line, then the next scene has to be him looking in the mirror going, what kind of monster have I become? There's no self-reflection in what he's doing. At no point does he even question it. And even when Vincent D'Onofrio kind of points a finger at him and says, you can't do this, he falls back on, well, who's gonna do it? The cops have failed. The system has failed. Society at large is failing. Somebody has to stand up for what's right. And while one might be able to buy into the argument, the previous scene you were torturing somebody. This does not compute.
Yeah, and that would have been nice. Really would have liked that, actually. But, the movie isn't good, so we can't have nice things in it.
Okay. The solid C.
Yeah, you're being very generous.
That's me. Social promoter of movies.
Look, the best thing about this movie was AC/DC's Back in Black playing over the credits so I could listen to AC/DC on a theater system.
Okay. The themes and motifs of the movie didn't speak to you in any way?
Yeah, I would... that much as I love delving into themes and motifs, if there's enough bad things on the surface, I can't ever get to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think this was a well-intentioned movie?
It's Eli Roth. No.
Okay. This is Eli... This is, again... I keep comparing it to a Quentin Tarantino movie. This is a shitty Quentin Tarantino movie. That's the impression I'm getting from you.
That's Eli Roth's career.
Shitty Quentin Tarantino.
He is the Kmart Blue Light Special version of Quentin Tarantino.
Someone needs to make a thing of that, like a T-shirt or something.
Eli Roth is to Quentin Tarantino what Chris Tucker is to Chris Rock.
Okay, that's really funny, actually. Eli Roth, the shitty Quentin Tarantino. That's going on Twitter.
Go for it. I don't care. And bear in mind, I'm a guy who has been known to enjoy violent movies. Really have. I'm a guy who isn't really off-put by gore on screen as long as it serves a purpose. I mean, in all honesty, if they had gone gorier with this movie and just used it as a celebration, I think it would have been better. Mark would have hated it more, but I think as a film it probably would have been stronger if you could at least point to something that it achieved. Instead of a horribly mediocre torture scene, and Bruce Willis being so not only old for the role, but painfully wooden.
I think he was going for a kind of emotionless middle class white guy that's pushed to the fringes of basest, most animalistic emotions.
Sure, but then he's still an emotionless middle class white guy when he is existing. This is as bad as Robert Downey Jr.'s violent rampage being expressed in a monotone.
Or
at the end of Civil War.
Or okay, damn it, that's exactly what I was just about to say. For some odd reason, I heard you saying something different, but yes, that.
Like, if that's what you want to go for, you have to kind of go for it, and just doesn't happen.
I believe I've said that before. All right. Hashtag Deathwish movie review. Hashtag Deathwish movie review thought. Eli Roth is the shitty Quentin Tarantino.
It's... Again, I don't really have almost anything good to say about this movie. The violence is slipshod. And this is not... Again, this is a director who is not shy about showing violence, but for some reason here, when it might actually fit... When you can actually maybe do something with it as a theme, as a method of storytelling, rather than as an end unto itself, he kind of looks away from it. It's weird. I don't fully understand it. I don't know. Again, since you kind of brought up let me give you why I think I prefer the original. One is that I don't mind that they, especially for 1970, whatever, they went with a more kind of gritty, realistic, almost makes you want to take a shower after seeing it style of film. Because it kind of gets under your skin and makes you kind of go, I must shower. I must bathe now. I must cleanse myself. And that kind of appeals to me. It's one of the things that I find appealing about Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. I find that to be an interesting... film genre, goal to have for a film. I also, with the original Death Wish, I kind of like that he doesn't actually go after his wife's, the people who attacked his family. That this is a guy who winds up, and I know they don't convey this appropriately, and that's a whole other issue, who has just kind of had enough of everything at this moment, and then just starts indiscriminately, killing people who have demonstrated proclivities for violence and murder themselves. I mean, the sequel is more where he actually goes after the people who attacked his family, which is, I mean, all those movies just get worse and worse and worse until you get to Death Wish 9, which is just old Charles Bronson sitting in a hospital bed, hooked up to a machine, going, "Boy, I wish I was dead."
That's a Simpsons reference.
It is.
Very good.
I have to get one in or so. I mean, there's almost... Again, if you want to see a revenge movie, again, I can recommend Death Sentence, which is essentially the same story. But actually does it... But you have Kevin Bacon actually being allowed to act, so he emotes at times. I mean, there's a whole scene in that movie, after he kills the kid who kills his son, which actually sparks that particular guy's older brother to come back and kill his family. Because it actually, references how revenge becomes cyclical rather than actually solving anything. But after he does that, he actually has a scene where he breaks down in the shower. Just collapses sobbing, apologizing over and over again because he's never done anything like that before.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think as a society we tend to embrace people who revel in violence, and those who would be sickened by their own behavior and have that breakdown in the shower just tend to turn off moviegoers? Thus we embrace Charles Bronson, who never has that moment in Death Wish. Well, he does once. He throws up, but then he seems to get over it, and he never looks back.
Well, it gets easier the more you do it.
But I mean, in 2018, I'm just wondering, if you're sitting down to write a film and you're reaching a crossroads with should the character have a self-reflective moment where he realizes I'm a monster, or should he revel in the violence, and does that writer then reach the conclusion people will think he's a pussy if we do the former, so we'll do the latter?
If you're a bad writer, that's what you think. If you're a good writer, you understand that you can actually have those moments of self-reflection and have them not come across as,
You can say
undermining
a pussy.
the character, but adding to it.
You can say a pussy. It's fine.
I'm not going to.
Okay. You don't like to curse. How do you do a show with me every week? Who curses? Who curses constantly?
No, I really don't. Again, I'm LDS. So.
That's okay. I won't make fun. I do enough of that with Ronnie
go ahead.
Adams.
We actually have a sense of humor about ourselves.
Yeah, it is something that you know what's hysterical about this? I'm just kind of getting ready to do the next couple of bits here, and I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes. 15% by the critics, 86% audience score. Could there not be a bigger divide between professional critics and the average moviegoer? Which brings me back to my thought on, we're writing our heroes the way that we are because people who sense, any thought that maybe you shouldn't shoot people in the face because they made you angry or hurt you in some way is a pansy. Yeah, I went with pansy that time. Is that better?
I don't care what you say.
Okay. I think that is a collective mindset of a lot of people, and I think when you're scrambling for movie dollars, there's an interest in giving the people what they want, and what they want is a hero who isn't afraid to shoot everything that moves and not feel bad about it.
Again, I get the point. I just, again, have to reference that if you're a good writer, those are scenes and moments that enrich the film, not detract from it. If you're a bad writer, and given the way this movie went, I'm going with the writer not being the greatest. Like, in absence of the ability to do depth with anything approaching competence, yeah, let's go one note.
Well, here's the thing, and it's the last thing I'll say on that particular topic. Remember, we're living in the idiocracy. And objectively, someone may be able to construct a scene where your hero is vulnerable in the face of so much violence. And artistically, it's great. And anyone with a soul, with any ability to look at a film critically can appreciate it. But that's like one guy in a sea of 100 idiots. And the 100 idiots are all going, "Why is he such a pussy?" No matter how well that scene is written.
It's also not just the individual scene; it's how the scene relates to the rest of the film. But yes, there will of course be a bunch of morons who just go, "No, I want more explosions."
More explosions.
I hate people.
Here's my recommendation.
Don't watch this movie.
I mean, it's better than the last Die Hard as far as Bruce Willis movies go. Let's start there. Not the worst Bruce Willis.
There's a perfectly cogent argument that a couple of Michael Bay films are better than the last Die Hard movie.
Hey, you'll be happy to know the next Transformers movie, not Bumblebee, but Transformers 6 has now dropped off of Paramount's calendar. So you dodged a bullet there, buddy. At least for now.
No, it's not dropped off. It's just launched into the future.
In any case, if you are one of those people who feels the need to see a folk hero that speaks to you in your perception of a world where you're feeling disempowered, if you like the idea of Punishers and John Wicks and Jason Bournes and whatnot, go ahead and see Death Wish. It's fine. It's palatable.
I have a better suggestion.
It's inoffensive. And now Rob's going to tell you 10 movies that are better than this to go see and not waste your time on this one. Go ahead.
Yes. Again, the aforementioned Death Sentence, which I find superior to this in every way, including the villain actually being a character rather than random video game boss number 37. There's the actual Punisher series on Netflix, which is great.
Yeah, it's 100% superior to this. I wasn't making a comparison.
There's the Thomas Jane Punisher movie, which, despite being tonally wild and all over the place, is better than this.
Yeah.
There's the Punisher Warzone, the sequel to the Thomas Jane one, with crap, I can't remember his name.
Go ahead, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, but there's the Punisher Warzone, which significantly more stylized. Ray Stevens, that's it. Ray Stevens, Stevenson, one of those two.
Ray Stevenson.
Stevenson, yeah. Ray Stevens is a comedic musician, I seem to recall. Anyway, Ray Stevenson, his version of the again. So there's that one, which is significantly more stylized and has better, much better done action sequences. There's John Wick, the aforementioned, where Keanu Reeves does a better acting job in essentially the same role than Bruce Willis does in this movie. Barring one scene in that film that just kind of makes me shake my head. There's John Wick Chapter 2. And
next year is John Wick Chapter 3.
Probably.
No, it's there. It's on the list, actually.
You'll have to see Chapter 2. Which I shouldn't hate. I don't dislike... John Wick's a great... it's a near perfect, late-night cable television movie.
What a selling point.
What? It is. How is that a bad selling point?
Yeah, piquing my interest.
Of course not. You also don't care for, The Godfather half the time.
That's not true. I didn't like The Godfather 3. Anyway, are you done?
Hang on. Just revenge movies. There's actually one starring Dwayne Johnson called Faster that's not bad. Better than this, at least. I think that's where I'll end. The original Death Wish, which I find more enjoyable.
Don't waste your time.
Again, Mark's complete and utter monogamy, your religious devotion to conventional narrative structure is admirable and tedious at the same time.
Yeah, I like stories that actually tell a story that aren't, gonzo porn.
All right, was there anything else? Oh, you could actually go with the original Punisher movie starring Dolph Lundgren.
Come on, God. For years I'm asking you why. Why are the guilty... Why are the innocent punished and the guilty alive? Where is justice? Where is punishment?
And again, which ought to tell you how much I thought about this movie that I can actually say that, you might actually go with the Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
Come on, God. For years I'm asking you.
Okay, stop. You did it once. Once was enough.
The first time I actually heard that was not in the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, but at the beginning of a Biohazard song called Punishment. Punishment for all my sins.
Okay, don't start singing. All right. So I've given you a significantly greater number of movies to go see instead of this.
Okay.
I don't think there's any... Again, if you want to see this movie, just make sure you stay through the credits because Back in Black on a theater sound system is pretty sweet.
Or just go see AC/DC live. All right, here we go with...
Boy, wouldn't that be nice if I could do that.
Here we go with our second portion of 3 on this show called Damn You Hollywood. Here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right. On a budget of $30 million, the domestic gross, apparently, I don't have worldwide numbers in front of me here, but its domestic gross is currently $14 million. The weekend results for March 2nd through March 4th was it debuted at number 3, behind Black Panther, which is on its 3rd week at number 1, and Red Sparrow. We could have done Red Sparrow instead of this. What do you think of that?
Why would you give me those two options? I will just get into a car accident to get out of this.
So Red Sparrow debuted at number 2 with Jennifer Lawrence. And then the aforementioned Death Wish debuted at number 3. Game Night, which I also saw.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Didn't enjoy the people talking to the right and to the left of me, and I had to move my seat lest I pull out a gun and shoot someone. Game Night.
If you're going to shoot someone, people who talk in the theater is probably borderline justifiable.
Indeed. Game Night debuted at number 2. It has dropped to number 4 this week in its second weekend. Peter Rabbit dropped. I also saw that with my children. Went from 3 to 4. Annihilation in its second week has dropped from 4 to 6. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, is still making money.
At this rate, The Rock will have 2 movies in the top 10 in the first quarter of 2018. One of them will be Jumanji, still sticking around at like number 10 when Rampage comes out.
A week earlier. Jumanji.
Well, sure, they moved up. Look, they moved up Infinity War. Everything else, every other studio went into panic mode and had to reschedule what they were doing.
Surprised they just didn't cancel the movie altogether. Look,
it's already been made.
Move everything to September.
What they should have done was moved it forward a week. Like, take Avengers' old spot.
I don't know. How about move it to September? There's nothing coming out then. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, fell from 6 to 7. Robert Winfrey and Ronnie Adams' favorite movie this year so far, a movie they raved about, 50 Shades Freed, fell from
Never
5...
seen it. I've not seen any of them.
I saw it. I saw it with a girl who's not my wife. How do you like that? Fell from 5 to 8.
Was it your ex-wife?
No, oh God, bite your tongue. I will end this podcast, sir. The Greatest Showman fell from 8 to 9, and Every Day 2018 from Orion Pictures in its second week fell from 9 to 10. Having Sex with Water rose from 13 to 11.
The Shape of Water. I should have made you watch that movie. I should have insisted that be on the schedule.
Everyone's calling it Having Sex with Water. That's funny. Anywho, rose from 13 to 11. The 1517 to Paris fell from 7 to 12. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, who is an Oscar nominee.
I think it won a couple of them.
Oh, did it? Okay. Fell from 11 to 13. The Post, 12 to 14. Call Me By Your Name rose from 22 to 15. Darkest Hour, 18
all the
to
post-Oscar
16.
things shuffled a little bit.
Yeah, Phantom Thread, 14 to 17. Lady Bird, 19 to 18. And finally, I, Tonya, rose from 20 to 19. And Winchester, 17 to 20. So there you go. There's your top 20 movies for the weekend, March 2nd through the 4th. Right now...
This thing's going to lose money.
Yeah, probably. I just, this weekend coming up, I believe is, what's this weekend? What's Friday?
I don't know.
Oh, it's A Wrinkle in Time. And the other movie I'm going to go see, The Hurricane Heist.
Why? Why? Just why?
Because I've got a movie pass, that's why. And I can go see it.
Ruining your life.
I can go see anything. So between the Hurricane Heist...
No. What troubles me is not that you can see anything with Movie Pass. It's that you choose to see the Hurricane Heist.
Look, I'm going to take my kids to go see a Wrinkle... Look, let me explain something to you. Can we talk for just a minute? Friday night is Mox night, okay? That is my bowling night, as it were. That is my Moose Lodge night. That is my night of... water buffaloes, so if Flintstones reference. You see what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm putting down? Friday night is when I leave work at 7 o'clock and I go to the movies and I have mock time. And this Friday, the big movie that's coming out is A Wrinkle in Time, starring Oprah Winfrey. And
that movie.
I'm taking...
I hate that movie so much.
And I'm taking my kids to go see it on Sunday, but that means I have nothing to see Friday night, and I don't need to see A Wrinkle in Time twice like I did with Black Panther the last time this happened. So, I needed something else to go see. And I looked at all the movies that are coming out and the movies that are out, and I said, well, what do I want to go see? Well, The Hurricane Heist looks fun, and that's where we are. I enjoy heist movies, and I enjoy disaster movies. This is a heist movie in the midst of a disaster. It sounds glorious.
No.
I can take A Wrinkle in Time off the schedule, and we can review the hurricane heist. Eh?
Ooh, that's actually tempting.
No. We must obey the mouse.
No. You actually kind of hang on. I mean, I'm going to hate them both. Like, there is no win for me over that week.
We're doing A Wrinkle in Time. Knock it off. The mouse demands it. It's Disney.
And now the mouse can kiss my ass.
Anywho.
In fact, I'm going to tell him that when I see him next week.
You're going to California, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so moving on to our... Black Panther is just dominating the universe in 2018. It's on fire to hit $1 billion, the first movie this year to do so. I'm sure Infinity War will eclipse it, but right now, lapping every other movie that's out there is Black Panther worldwide at $909 million. In a deep
thing might break $1 billion.
No, it's going to. It's absolutely on track to do so. They said its numbers in China alone will push it past $1 billion. So that's
maybe
regardless. You want to take a wild guess?
It's not a cultural phenomenon in China, so who knows?
I mean, there's a lot of people. If at least half of them go see a movie, it's go see that one. It makes $1 billion. So,
that's very true.
You want to know what's in second place worldwide? All over the world, Robert Winfrey. Do you want to know what people are going to see? What they're wetting their whistles to? Their tempting fate? What they're spending their hard-earned money for?
Sure.
50 Shades Freed.
Yeah, this is why the world's going to hell.
Bear
in mind,
this is why the Arabs will win.
The world is not going down the tubes, and people are going, screw it, let's see the 50 Shades franchise. This thing started because society was crumbling.
Oh, stop. You and Ronnie Adams need to go bowling. 50 Shades Freed was a fine movie. He had moral issues with it. In any case, in third place is The Maze Runner: The Death Cure.
I mean, look, morally, if you want to make a moral debate out of it, why? The movie just sucks. You don't need to make a moral debate out of it. It's just a bad film.
It was a fine piece of art.
The thing is badly written. The whole franchise, be that book or movie, badly written, badly acted.
You were not there in a theater full of women who applauded this thing as if it were Shakespeare. Sir, clearly you're just not the audience for it, and you don't get how...
No, I'm not a postmenopausal woman desperately trying to reinvigorate my imaginary sex drive.
I was not with a postmenopausal woman who thought this thing was pure genius. In fourth place is Paddington 2, brought to you by the good people at Warner Brothers who have wrecked the DC franchise. In fifth place is Insidious: The Last Key. Sixth place, Peter Rabbit, and all of its issues with...
apparently there's controversy around that.
Yeah, that's what I was making fun of. The Commuter...
What's there controversy around Peter Rabbit?
Because there's a scene where somebody goes into anaphylactic shock because the CGI animals are torturing him. Den of Thieves at 12 strong, and finally in 10th place is once again the Warner Brothers product, the 1517 to Paris. I can tell you right now, everything from 7 down is going to get wiped off the mat over the next month as your big time blockbusters start rolling in through the month of March. As I said, next week is A Wrinkle in Time. That'll, I'm sure, dominate the weekend. Maybe it passes Black Panther, maybe it doesn't. I think that's the only thing that stands in its way. But everything else is going to get trampled. Anything else on the money, sir?
No. Again, this is indicative of society crumbling.
This is why the Red Chinese will win. All right.
They're crumbling just along with us. They're just not publicizing it.
You're right. I meant the Arabs. The joke is this is why the Arabs will win. All right.
They won't win either.
Oh God.
Don't you get it? Nobody wins.
Everybody hurts sometimes.
Everybody loses, and then the zombies come.
Okay. Put it on a T-shirt, Mindy. All right. Here we go. I have a question for you, Robert Winfrey.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
How do you like your new bit intro?
Considering I actually couldn't hear that one, I assume it's the same one we played last time that Jesse kind of cobbled together of Are You Ready into the Michael Scott thing.
Close. It's Triple H asking twice, "Are you ready?" and then Michael Scott.
Are you ready? No! Generic city I'm in tonight. I said, are you ready?
Pretty much. Yeah, nailed it. All right. All right, folks, if you're...
Seriously, did they ever... I really did just want at some point the crowd to just universally chant no when he said, are you ready?
Folks, if you're...
Can you give us 5 minutes?
We're not ready. Folks, if you've never listened to...
Production says no.
If you've never listened to Damn You Hollywood before, this is the part of the review where we review the reviewers. We take a look at the 1-line or 2-line samples of reviews that are cobbled together on Rotten Tomatoes, and we unleash the beast that is Robert Winfrey on the so-called professionals. And we do this because somebody has to watch the watchers and tell them they're shitty at their job. Here we go.
They really are.
Xenia Baria of the Times India. Oh, these are always great. While the story is straightforward, it also tends to be predictable and doesn't keep you engaged throughout. The emotional connect is sketchy, and the action sequences seem sluggish at best. Roth doesn't have a robust script to begin with.
I would actually agree with all of that.
Well, you won't agree with this. Chris Stuckman. You, Chris Stuckman, you. We don't like you. There's not a single memorable action scene. It's a mishmash of tones filled with wooden performances, a very boring lead character, and no clear-cut villain.
Ugh. I mean, I want to disagree with that, but I'm struggling to. I mean,
well, come on, there is a clear-cut villain.
Sure, who shows up at the end as a MacGuffin.
All right, moving on.
Suddenly Zemo.
That doesn't deserve a suddenly Zemo. Robert Clifford of Reeling Reviews. Okay, here's where we get good. Robert Clifford of Reeling Reviews says, now is not the time to bring out a film that is positive about vigilantism and vengeance down the barrel of a gun. Besides all that, it's just not a very good film.
Oh, yes, because No, you couldn't just say it's not a very good film. It's not a very good film. But no, we must politically grandstand. We can't possibly have actual debate about the topic. How dare you glorify violence? Which violent scene would you like to discuss them glorifying? What lingering shot of physical trauma disturbed you? Because there weren't many. Oh, he staples his shoulder together. Have you not seen Roadhouse? Like,
or Rambo.
Genuinely. Or Rambo, any of them. I mean, there's actually a scene in Master and Commander when Paul Bettany performs abdomen surgery on himself. But no, this is the movie that we must take a moral stance against. How dare we discuss the need for vengeance and the put upon society? You people, this is all you leftist nut jobs, by the way. No, the people in Baltimore aren't rioting. It's an uprising. No, it's a riot. You dumbass. No. But in this no, we shouldn't glorify violence except when it's Antifa or complaining about police brutality. Then yes, pepper spray random Samoans on the street and get punched in the face over it because you're a dumbass.
We have a lot of these to get through. You're gonna need to edit yourself.
Okay, keep going. I'm good with that one.
I'm just saying this happens a lot throughout these reviews. Like Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. As expected, the film is as tone-deaf as expected, but so much else is wrong with it that audiences may be too busy laughing to notice.
What do you mean tone-deaf? Like, hang on, you moron. Do you not understand how this process works? Like, do you genuinely not understand the filmmaking process? Everyone who talks about, this movie is tone deaf. How dare they, not take into account the shootings that occurred a week before? Because they filmed it in October of 2016. Principal photography on the film began in late September of 2016 and then in October of 2016. They're tone deaf. Not when they shot it. You bunch of idiots. Like, this is culturally insensitive and tone deaf to our current political climate. Well, when was it written? How long had they been shopping the script around? When was it shot? How long has it been delayed? How many times has its release been delayed? How many production issues were there? Tone deaf. You're a bunch of idiots.
It's only going to get worse. Ty Burr of the Boston Globe, top critic. Death Wish is a catechism for an audience terrified that their firepower and their influence are dwindling.
I mean, hey, it's not like, we have the presidency and still the House and the Senate. No, our influence is clearly dwindling. You bunch of coastal living jackoffs.
Coastal living? Sean Burns of the New England Movies Weekly.
No, seriously.
Speaking of
Every
coastal.
one of these morons who thinks, the political power of the conservative movement is waning. Do me a favor. Get off the plane next time you stop in Dallas. See what you see.
Sean Burns, New England Movies Weekly, says, you'd think such a morally repugnant gun nut masturbation fantasy would at least be worth getting worked up about. But the movie's so laborious and wheezy, it's almost pitiable.
This is not a gun... No. Like, Rocket Raccoon has a gun fetish. All right? This is not any of that. I mean, you linked one of these that I assume we'll get to. I actually find it morally reprehensible that you apply such a broadly and completely undeserved moral judgment to anyone who happens to either enjoy this movie or, own a firearm. No. You're a bad person for disagreeing with me politically. No, you're a moron for thinking that. And I can say that about you specifically. You moron.
Oh, God. All right. This one isn't our Trumpiest review. That one's the one I sent you earlier, and we'll get to it. But this might be the get 'em Winfrey of the night. Okay? Is anyone around in your house? Have you given everyone sufficient warning that this is probably going to be the one that makes your head explode and makes you start screaming?
I have a clear line of fire at the moment. We're
okay.
good.
Do you need to get a drink?
I got stuff around me. We're good.
Sarah Mars of Laney Gossip. There is no good time for a movie like Death Wish.
Oh, for the love of... You sanctimonious douchebag. There's no... here's what kills me. Hang on. Here's what kills me about this. If your point was there's not really a good time for a movie that is a slipshod as this, that's not as well put together, if you were actually...
You know damn well that's not her point.
I know that. Hang on. If you were actually commenting on the quality of the film, you might have a degree of competence in your job, but you're not. This is an excuse for moral sermonizing and virtue signaling on your part. There's never a good time to address revenge and the put upon. There's never a good time to address crime rates and the fact that the police force in this country is largely investigative rather than preventative. It's never a good time to discuss these things unless it wants to be done on your schedule, under your terms, and it's written and directed by who's a liberal jack-off director? Any number of them.
Tim Roth.
What?
Tim Roth.
Sure. Then it's a cultural masterpiece. But if it happens to be even vaguely apolitical or opposed to your belief structure, it must be struck down, you fascist jackoff. Like, what's the matter with you? It's never a good time. Who the hell are you to actually pass that kind of cultural judgment for 300 million Americans or 7 billion people on the planet? Who anointed you? You've got a keyboard and a mediocre job and a political science degree that you can't actually use for anything, so you review films. How dare you? Like, genuinely, how dare you cast that kind of pall across such wide swatches of humanity? I hate people indiscriminately. Your response is, no, it's never a good time to have a movie that deals with things that disagree with me politically. You miserable, fragile little jackass.
I once dated a girl like this. You know, it was never a good time to disagree with her. That's why we don't. Why I didn't? Huh? Was
it your first wife?
No, that was a whole different kind of crazy. This was actually in the shadow of my first wife after I left her. Rashid Irani, Hindustan Times. Rather than acting as social commentary, the remake merely exploits the overarching themes of crime and punishment to unleash more violence and death. No, that's the first movie. That's the original.
Yeah, that really is much more the original than it is this one.
This one tried.
No.
Robert... If someone, like our good friend Benjamin Colon or somebody, just needs to draw a picture of like you in a cage and me feeding you steaks, because that's what this is. This is a big, raw, boned steak ready to feed you. Robert Deniston of Deniston Unleashed. I'm not sure we ever needed a Death Wish reboot, but we sure as hell don't need one now.
Okay. Again, if you were actually suggesting that we don't need to remake a movie that was a phenom for its cultural time and is looked back on fondly via nostalgia, because what does it actually add? Is it actually going to be any good? Then that's something. You know, that's actually a point. That's not what you're saying. And we all know that's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, I don't like this, it makes me uncomfortable, take it away. This is a poor way to go through life.
All right.
Especially if your profession is, film review. You're as bad as Leonard Maltin, who's like, oh, God, another Marvel movie.
Steven Silver of Splice Today. An abomination. And the favorite movie of the year for people who like to say, yes, but what about black-on-black crime in Chicago? 0 out of 5 stars.
Really? Hold on. An abomination? Really? This isn't...
Does this not scream of people like out trying to to do the others as terms of who could be the biggest liberal douchebag?
You all read each other's reviews and decided I must one up this.
Yes.
The only way that my miserable little opinion will actually be noted is if I'm capable of becoming more outlandish than the previous person, and it's just going up and up and up, and oh god, how can I escalate? I must escalate. Never mind that you could actually argue there's a theme in the film and the subject material about escalation and how futile it is, but no, we must escalate. Ugh. This is not an abomination. It's not good, but come on, man. Like, this isn't The Room. This isn't Manos Hands of Fate. This isn't... Showgirls. Sure. Like, there's all these movies, or actually, the first Hostel. You could probably make a stronger argument. This isn't the original... Oh, what was it? Cannibal Holocaust. Yeah, this isn't the original Cannibal Holocaust. It's not even Eli Roth's remake of the Cannibal Holocaust, which he actually called, like, Green Inferno. I seem to recall. It's none of those. Like, no. This is not by any stretch of the imagination, an abomination. It's just not a good movie. Those aren't the same things. The fact that you're now going to that extreme just completely invalidates your opinion. Like, you've shown you're willing to do nothing but exaggerate and go into hyperbole for the sake of, please pay attention to me.
is one of my favorite reviewers because this one's another one who's with her nose firmly in the air and head firmly up her own ass. Katie Walsh, Tribune News Service, top critic. The film cranks up the audience with little jokes and references and gets the audience cheering for the Grim Reaper before they even realize what they're cheering for. And therein lies the problem.
No. Like, how do you miss the point? Like, okay, A, he kills people before they name him. Like, that's a thing. Second, the point is that this was a normal man pushed beyond what he considered rational and to act in an irrational manner. If you want to argue about how badly the movie did that, that's fine. That's not your point. Your point is, all I want to do is feel morally superior to someone who shoots another human being regardless of circumstance. How dare our police officers carry firearms and not batons?
Okay. Here's our Rolling Stone review, and it's very Rolling Stone of it. David Fear, top critic. He's not remaking Death Wish. He's making what he thinks a person in 1974 sitting in a 40 deuce grindhouse theater would have seen in their mind while watching it. How very Rolling Stone of this person.
Yeah. There's writing to your audience, and then there's pandering to your editor. I feel this is the latter.
Jeffrey M. Anderson of Common Sense Media. Director Eli Roth's remake of the 1974 Charles Bronson movie is not only awful, but it's also incredibly thoughtless with a brutish, simple-minded argument. Okay.
Okay, hold on. The argument is neither brutish nor simple-minded. Let me be very, very clear about that. If you're arguing that it makes it in a brutish and simple-minded point, fine. Again, I don't actually care much for this movie. But to demonize the whole notion of the right to protect yourself as being brutish and simple-minded it undermines the fabric of Western civilization. Like, no, you do not have the right to defend yourself. You do not have the right to protect those you love. No, you don't have that right. Shut up, cower in a corner. Unless we disagree with you, in which case, violence. Because that's the way political discourse goes in this country right now, it seems. Just
Christopher Llewellyn Reed of Film Festival Today. Death Wish deserves a quick demise. Well, sir, you're going to get your wish because next week, A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, it's not going to make its money. And it's only, it's 100 minutes long? It's not a long movie. And bear in mind, if you're going to throw around words like deserves, it deserves a quick demise. No, like Transformers deserved a quick demise. Instead, it drug on for 5 movies across 10 years and just made my life miserable.
Let's see here. A lot of criticism of Bruce Willis's performance as he walked through it, which we've already talked about.
He kind of did, let's be fair.
Let's see. Maitland McDonough, a Film Journal International. In the end, it's just another macho fantasy about good guys with guns, and good guys is in quotes. Wait, I got to add to that one. Matt Zoller cites of RogerEbert.com, top critic, vigilante dad rock.
Okay. Well, let me start with this. Just for historical perspective. The only thing that ever really stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. This is documented. This is documentable. This is provable throughout, again, let me throw out Western civilization, but like the course of human history. A bad, evil human being with a weapon is stoppable pretty much only by a good human being with a weapon, or multiple of them, ideally. That's just the way that is. Now, the notion that this is just a macho fantasy, no. Like, Commando's a macho fantasy. Really. And a pretty good one. This really isn't. Like, no one should really kind of fantasize about the totality of this film.
Hey.
Again, finding a rocket launcher and rescuing your daughter while being Arnold Schwarzenegger in the, early 90s, yes. Sorry about that. Again, if you want to fantasize about being Schwarzenegger in the mid-90s, finding a rocket launcher and mowing down an army on an island because you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, sure. That's a macho fantasy. Being a quiet, somewhat desperate, middle-aged, older... I mean, it's Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is 60-something. He's not middle-aged anymore. Older, bald man whose family is violently taken away from him and then goes on a murder rampage? No. Like, that's not a macho fantasy.
Jeffrey Lyles of Lyle Movie Files. Death Wish is a poorly timed rebuttal. And a pretty lousy one at that.
It's not a rebuttal. Why do you ascribe these things to this movie, people? It's not a rebuttal. This thing was filmed, again, in the fall of 2016.
You know what's funny?
How does that make this a rebuttal?
I gotta read this just because. Now, it's a rotten review. It gave it a D+, which I think is hilarious. But it agrees with my assertion that this is A.A. Dowd of the AV Club, top critic. By most metrics, this Death Wish is a better movie than the first one. I agree. You're absolutely right.
I don't, but we've been over that. This guy's just poking at people to poke at them.
Glenn Weldon of NPR. Well, you know where this is headed. Top critic.
I wonder.
It asks nothing and offers only the blanket assertion that feelings of masculine inadequacy, the most important thing a man can do is protect his family, and I failed, Willis declaims, can be obviated ballistically.
Okay, let me say this, first of all. As a representative of a radio station whose political agenda centers around feelings, identity politics, and safe spaces, the fact that you are bringing this up as a negative only completely invalidates your ability to be objective. It's simply utilizing feelings against you. It's feelings that you don't agree with, and therefore, how dare you bring up feelings? Instead of feelings that I do agree with, in which case, how dare you argue against them? It's sad and vaguely pathetic.
This is a fresh review, but it confuses me. and I'm reading this.
The fact that it's fresh confuses me. That's all that needs to be said.
and I'm reading this because Robert you often like to say that I hate you, and I'm curious if this is the one that's going to send you into cardiac arrest. I'm reading this as a scientific experiment to see if this is the one that finally drives you over the edge. Christian Toto of HollywoodInToto.com says, you won't see a more subversive movie in our woke age this year or maybe next.
Okay. I have a very pointed response to this. Hang on.
Does it involve the word fuck? Did you just fart into the microphone?
No, I have. As a gag for Christmas 3 or 4 years ago, somebody got me one of the fart gun from Despicable Me, and I have it by my computer.
Oh, terrific. Boy, do I miss our soundboard.
Look, you used... let me start with this. You used woke. This automatically disqualifies you from intelligent discussion or civilized society.
So this next one is our good friend Roger Moore.
Hang on. Second, okay. Do you not understand what subversive means? Have you not actually looked up the definition of the word? Subversive is... Okay, here's a better example of subversion. There are only 2 decent movies from Roland Emmerich. One of them is the first Independence Day. The other is a movie called The Patriot starring Mel Gibson. Very young Heath Ledger as well. The reason that particular movie, especially the title, is subversive is that Mel Gibson, throughout basically that entire movie about the Revolutionary War in South Carolina, he is not on the side of independence. He's not against it, but he is not actively supporting the revolution. He is not, by definition, a patriot. Till like the very end. But it is, again, therefore a subversive title because it subverts your expectations. How the hell is a movie called Death Wish showing a man wishing to both die and kill people, wishing to die and kill people, subversive? Nothing about this movie is subversive. You may not like it. That's fine. You may disagree with it. Also fine. The language matters, you blithering jackass.
All right, moving right along. Roger, our good friend Roger Moore, who every week defies us to stick a trout or some sort of fish in his tailpipe or in his hubcaps. An old man's movie made for even older men, impotent, angry ones. Sir, aren't you like 400 years old?
Okay, hang on. I question your... I mean, if you're going to bring up the issue of virility, your own age might come into question. This is not a movie for old men. It stars an old man. Certainly plays towards an older demographic, perhaps, but that's not the same thing. Second, the fact that one is old does not in any way, shape, form, or fashion mandate issues of virility. I mean, Hugh Hefner, died getting it on. That was never a man who had a problem. Jack Nicholson apparently still enjoys the occasional physical tryst. No. To enjoy this movie, you need to have suffered head trauma, not be an old, impotent man. And seriously, if anyone knows this guy, find a dead fish. Remove his Remove his hubcaps. Stick the fish inside the hubcaps, reattach them.
Randall Colburn of Consequence of Sound. There's something distinctly odious about a storyteller exploiting both a city's tragic reality and a country's debate about firearms to make a film that thrives on violence. Are you getting the themes of these reviews?
Horror.
Are you getting the themes of these reviews?
How dare you? I mean, again, let me stress this. This is not a cultural rebuttal. It was filmed, 18 months ago? Ish?
Roughly.
Call it 18. I know it's not exact, but for the sake of rounding. It's not designed as a cultural rebuttal. How dare this film, make a... I mean, how dare Steven Spielberg make Schindler's List if this is going to be your line of logic?
So there's two more I want to read because they're really stupid. And then there's our Trumpy review, and then we're done. Okay? Let me just read through these real quick, and then these two, and then your remarks, and then we'll do the Trumpy one, and then we'll get out of here. Matt Goldberg of Collider. Unlike the original Death Wish, where violence ruins everything it touches, in the remake, it's a cure-all. Happiness is only a semi-automatic away. And then you have...
How do you people not... Look, again, not defending this movie necessarily, but if you don't get that he only found happiness when his daughter came back into his life, I don't know what to tell you. The act of vengeance that he is taking, the violence, does not actually help him.
Not to mention the fact that after watching Death Wish, I'm not entirely sure where he gets the, violence ruins everything it touches. Charles Bronson gets away with murder. Just gets away with it. And he goes on to continue doing his architecture thing in a new city. He's in no way punished. He's mildly asked to relocate. That's it. Vincent Mancini of Film Drunk. Now is such a terrible time to release a movie about white vigilante taking out the trash that I expected it to justify its existence somehow. It never did. If anything, it's less satirical than the original.
Okay, first of all, if you any film critic that asks a movie to justify its existence is not the kind of critic that should be listened to. Like, people paid to see it. There, justified its existence.
That's what I've always said. And our Trump
and that's a perfectly valid perspective. Like, justify your existence in what method? Like, what method? How would you like me to do this? How about the dozens, if not hundreds, of costume designers and camera crew and technicians that got paid to make it? Continuing to gainfully employ people is not justification for you, you moron.
In our Trumpiest review of the night, because there's always got to be one, Don K. of Den of Geek. How's your heart? How's your general health, Robert Winfrey? Are you okay? Can you bear this? Can you bear the burden?
I'm good. I get to punch people tomorrow.
All right, here we go.
Actually punched people today, but that was kind of impromptu.
Death Wish is an NRA member's wet dream. A perfect film for the America that only exists in the poisoned imagination of the pathetic would-be bully in the White House. I would have had more respect for Don K. had his entire review just been, I hate Trump. It would have been more coherent.
Yeah, look. Well, let me start with this. No NRA member has wet dreams about their family being assaulted and killed. I mean, literally, how dare you? How dare you ascribe that to millions and millions of Americans? Second of all, you are one of these coast-living blowhards who does not understand or care to acknowledge, say, 45 of the 50 states. To your line of thinking, sir, and I feel pretty confident saying this, if it does not take place in California, New York, maybe Atlanta or Chicago, apparently, you don't think it counts. You are perfectly willing to discount, marginalize, overlook, and discriminate against anyone who disagrees with you based on in no small part on their geographic profile. You are, in a very real way, emblematic of what is so wrong with so much of society. And not just because you disagree with me, mind you. I do not care that your view on life runs contrary to my own. I really couldn't care less so long as you can be civil about it. And apparently you can't. But the fact that you are willing to so broadly paint huge categories of people as being morally bankrupt and evil simply because they disagree with you. Really, who's the racist here? Is it the guy saying all white people who are members of the NRA are racists? Because that seems like a racial call on your end, as opposed to anyone else, certainly me, saying, no, you're a moron. Because, no, you're a moron, and quite frankly, you're bordering on racism. I mean, technically it is racist. You bloviating jackass.
All right. I think we've had all we can stand, so we can't stand no more. So,
more importantly, hang on.
Oh,
More importantly,
God.
very briefly. Have you not paid attention to Donald Trump's actual political agenda? I mean, the man he very recently suggested removing due process from the confiscation of firearms. One of his actual proposals was, let's take guns away from people and then have due process to get them back. But no, clearly this is his, wet dream. What's the matter with you people? Like, no, I want my narrative, and I want to feel good about saying what I want to say, and how dare you say anything different? Like, I hate all of you miserably untalented, failed political commentators who decide to clog up film review by utilizing it as nothing more than an excuse to foist your political views onto anyone reading. You all are a blight on film criticism in general.
I do love this portion of our show. And you'll get to hear us do it all again next week on A Wrinkle in Time here on Damn You Hollywood.
Okay.
Recorded Tuesday nights
this movie
on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network on Spreaker. And just rounding out the month of March, we'll have Tomb Raider, which will be recorded on March 20th, and Pacific Rim Uprising, recorded on the 27th. And if you just love Robert and I doing reviews, you get to hear a bonus show. We got a TV party tonight, a week from Thursday.
Wait, what day is that?
That would be the 15th.
Okay, I'll still be available for that one.
Thursday, March 15th, we will be reviewing Jessica Jones Season 2. For a TV party tonight. As for this week, we got Fu Manchu, Clone of the Universe, on the Metal Hammer of Doom. We decided not to do the new Andrew WK, as the new Andrew WK sounds like a PSA for suicide prevention, and I wasn't into it. So we moved some stuff around on the calendar.
Not into suicide prevention?
Not into PSAs about it, posing as metal albums.
I mean, considering that it's a significant part of your job description, I can understand you not wanting to do it in your private time.
You have no idea. So we're going to skip the new Andrew WK. Look, it wasn't great. I don't feel like talking about it. So instead, we're going to put on
Wait,
some of that...
I can use that excuse?
I can. You can't.
Damn it.
So instead, we're going to play some of that stoner metal you know and love, Fu Manchu, Clone of the Universe. And On Trial is back. I will be prosecuting Death Wish, as you heard some of my arguments tonight, and Sean will be defending it. And somewhere out there, Pat will be burning me in effigy. Pat Mullen loves the Death Wish.
Already did. I can't believe you didn't see the live stream.
What?
He already burned you in effigy. Didn't you see the live stream?
Oh, okay, got it. I'm with you now. Next week, it's all Jessica Jones all the time. Not really. It's only 2 shows out of 4. Source material, we'll be doing Jessica Jones Volume 1, Uncaged. The aforementioned Damn You Hollywood, or Wrinkle in Time. Ministry has a new album out, speaking of Trumpy.
The only person standing on the hill of that movie is terrible. I'm calling that right now.
Terrific. Ministry's got a new album out, speaking of Trumpy. So we'll be reviewing America Can't.
Trumpy.
On the Metal Hammer of Doom, and then as I said before, Jessica Jones Season 2 on TV Party tonight. The week after that, we've got Tomb Raider Volume 1, Season of the Witch on source material. We'll be reviewing the new Tomb Raider reboot.
That will be Mark and Ronnie, not me. I will be in Disneyland hopefully that Tuesday.
That's right, yes. Ronnie Adams and possibly Jesse Starcher will be joining me for a double shot as we review the new Tomb Raider. Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing the new Judas Priest, Firepower. And then another On Trial for the month of March, Tomb Raider 2, Cradle of Life. And we round out March with celebrating the debut of Krypton on the Sci-Fi Network, which airs March 21st. We'll be doing our little ode to that show with Superman, The Many Worlds of Krypton on source material. We'll be reviewing...
You know, the most interesting thing about the Tomb Raider movies is that Daniel Craig and Gerard Butler are in the first and second, respectively.
Okay. Damn You Hollywood, Pacific Rim Uprising on March 27th. Looking forward to that, because I do love my monster movies, especially robots punching monsters. And finally, speaking of stoner rock that you know and love, we'll be reviewing the new Sword album, Used Future, on the Metal Hammer of Doom, March 28th, and that will take us out of the month of March in 2018. The winter of Robert Winfrey's discontent.
Considering winter only really showed up here over the last month and a half, that's not inaccurate. We had 2 snowstorms. Less than that probably at our elevation. Over Christmas, during that stretch of time. The last 2.5 weeks, snow 7 inches.
Do your plugs there, Snowman.
This Sunday there will be a 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We will be previewing UFC Fight Night 127. It's a Fight Pass exclusive card. The UFC returns to London with a headliner between a Brazilian and a Russian. Seriously, it's Verdum and Volkov.
Sounds great.
Mark, you don't like heavyweights. You don't like good heavyweights, let me rephrase that. You only like bad heavyweights.
I'll be in Daytona Beach or Cocoa Beach. It won't matter. I won't be watching it.
Then the Sunday after that, we will be reviewing that particular event. I will be on... Make sure I actually have my dates correct for that. Yeah, we'll preview that. The 18th, we'll review that. I will be on vacation from the 20th to the 24th, so you get, I believe, Ronnie Adams here to review the new Tomb Raider. If I happen to get into the hotel on time, I might see if I can get into that one. I'll have to see it on Friday, but that's not a big deal. So I'll put that in my back pocket, depending on how soon we're able to leave and how soon we get into, again, Anaheim. But it's a few days in Southern California. A good friend of my brother and mine works at Universal. So we're going to go do that. We'll go spend a couple of days at Disneyland. Basic family vacation. I actually have to bid adieu to my long hair tomorrow in preparation for that. Other than that, I think that's it, actually, for my plugs. Again, we'll be back next week where we will talk about A Wrinkle in Time, and people fought over Oprah for no reason. Seriously, she's terrible.
All right, for your host of this here program, Robert Winfrey, and myself, your mandated reporter, and frankly unmortified Mr. Mark Radledge, this has been...
Oh, hey. You can find us. You can find us on iHeartRadio now. Apparently,
yes, you can, and we're helping out with the numbers. People are finding us on iHeartRadio. Hope you're enjoying us. Hope you enjoyed this show. This has been.
Tell your friends. Trying to build something here, people.
Indeed. This has been Damn You Hollywood on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network on Spreaker. Find us wherever you download your favorite podcast, whether it be iTunes, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or you can find us on the Spreaker website itself at the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network, etc., etc. Ladies and gentlemen, be well, be safe, and behave.